The humanities, history, philosophy, religious studies, above all, literature and the other arts, are the record of the ways that people have come to terms with being human. They address the questions that are proper to us, not as this or that kind of specialist, this or that kind of professional, but as individuals as such. The very questions we are apt to ask when we look up from our work and think about our lives, something that comes very naturally, especially to young people. Questions of love, death, family, morality, time, truth, God, and everything else within the wide, starred universe of human experience. The humanities are what we have in a secular society instead of religion. They are compatible with religion, but they have also, in important ways, supplanted it. As traditional beliefs were broken down across the 18th and 19th century by science, by the skeptical critique of the Enlightenment, the arts emerged as the place where educated people went to contemplate those questions of meaning and value and purpose. Now the truth was multiple and personal, not settled and dogmatic. Instead of looking in the Bible, you read Dostoevsky, or listened to Beethoven, or went to an Ibsen play. Libraries, museums, and theaters, and places like the Dallas Institute, became the new churches, places where you came to court the old emotions of catharsis, transcendence, redemption, and joy. The arrangement became known as aestheticism, the religion of art. As Whitman put it in his characteristically modest way, the priest departs, the divine literatus comes. It's no coincidence, as Andrew Dabanco points out, that English became an object of university study around the very same time that aestheticism crystallized as an idea. The center of the college curriculum swung slowly from the Greek and Latin classics, taught by rote as fixed bodies of knowledge, to English and the other humanities. But the change was really a form of continuity. Most colleges had been founded as church-affiliated institutions, and now they sought to carry on their spiritual mission under the secular dispensation. Or in the case of the University of Dallas, which quite frankly I'd never heard of before and have become very interested in, not under the secular dispensation, but with a profound understanding that they're connected. Besides the specialized programs of study in the scientific and other disciplines that were also introduced in the late 19th century, or in more familiar terms, majors, there emerged the humanistic components of the liberal arts curriculum, including the great books and other general education courses that were designed to provide an opportunity for students to think about what we call the big questions. The minister in the college chapel preaching doctrine gave way to the professor in the classroom leading a discussion. Okay, that sounds good. But why art? I mean, as I say, the study of the arts, literature, and the other arts is the center of the humanities. So what claim does art have on the truth? If the latter is so difficult to come by, then how do artists manage it? And I'm going to say it in one sentence. I think this is the essence of it. By looking very hard and long and working very hard and long to tell us what they saw. Anyone who's tried to paint an object or a scene will understand this point. It takes tremendous concentration just to see what's actually in front of you, let alone to get it down on canvas, to perceive a cup of water, say, not simply as an instrument of use, something that you barely glance at as you satisfy your thirst, but in the full particularity of its material existence. The liquid color of the glass, the fingerprints around the middle, the rim of light at the meniscus, the shape of the translucent shadow that the whole thing casts. As with painting, so with every art. In literature, what is observed is not primarily the physical world, but the psychological and social ones. The poet looks at what she really feels about her body or her sister, not what she's supposed to feel. The novelist reflects upon the way we really treat each other, the pettiness or callousness or secret irrational longing, not the way we say we do. Those conventional modes of thought and emotion from which you need to free yourself, the party lines we spout, the happy talk that we're surrounded by, are exactly what art does its work by breaking through. There's a reason we avoid the truth with our sociable lies and our psychological blocks, which is it's usually too hard to bear. Kafka said, "A book must be the axe for the frozen sea within us." John Ruskin, the greatest art critic of the 19th century, as well as one of its greatest social critics, a personal hero of mine, a crucial influence on Proust, Gandhi, and many others, put the matter this way: the more I think of it, I find this conclusion more impressed upon me. That the greatest thing a human soul ever does in this world is to see something and tell what it saw in a plain way. Hundreds of people can talk for one who can think, but thousands can think for one who can see. To see clearly is poetry, prophecy, and religion all in one. And if you think that he meant this in a metaphorical sense, you're getting him precisely wrong. He means literally seeing. Our eyes slide over the world as we obsess about our grades or our sex life or our income. Our minds slide over it. Art, to paraphrase the poet Shelley, bursts the spirit's sleep. Now, to say that the humanities can be a path to truth is itself to challenge one of the most closely held beliefs of our time. We live not only in a scientific world, but also in a scientistic one, a world that thinks that science, empirical, objective, quantifiable, is the exclusive form of knowledge, and that other modes of inquiry are valid only insofar as they approximate its methods. But the humanities and science face in opposite directions. They don't just work in different ways, they look at different things. To borrow a term from Stephen Jay Gould, who was certainly one scientist who did understand the value of the arts, science and the humanities are non-overlapping magisteria. He uses that phrase, that impressive phrase, to describe the difference between science and religion, but it's a history of science and art. Non-overlapping magisteria, different forms of teaching that are each appropriate to their own domain. Scientific knowledge relates to external reality, to that which lies outside our minds and makes itself available for objective observation. Humanistic knowledge relates to our experience of the world, to what reality feels like. The painter renders the subjective experience of sight, including, especially in modern art, the dreams or dreads that we project on what we see. The novelist seeks to give us the taste of what it's like to be alive at a particular moment. The humanities are all well and good, goes another argument for the children of the privileged who don't need to worry about making a living. But other students, even at selective schools, should stick to the practical disciplines, mainly the quantitative ones, engineering, computer science. The notion echoes something Woodrow Wilson said a century ago. We want one class of persons to have a liberal education, and we want another class, very much larger, to forego the privileges of a liberal education and fit themselves to perform specific, difficult manual tasks. If you substitute the term technical for manual, this is what a lot of people think now. It's not the proponents of a liberal education who are the elitists. It is those that would reserve it for the lucky few. Now, is there something condescending or imperialistic in the current term about suggesting that children of immigrants ought to study English in the Western classics? Well, maybe, but there's also something immensely powerful, and not just in personal terms. Those Jewish kids between the world wars who were socialized into Western culture went on to take possession of it. Saul Bellow, Norman Mailer, J.D. Salinger, Leonard Bernstein, and countless others, including a little later Philip Roth, Susan Sontag, Woody Allen, and someone who I understand was a guest of yours, Stephen Sondheim. They propelled themselves to the center of American art and thought, transforming it in their image. I think the best thing that could happen to our culture now is if the Asian and Latino kids did the same. Telling them to stick to medicine or finance is just another way of keeping those communities down. But it's not my intention to advocate for great books courses. I think they're valuable. I think they're important as a part of our past. But those civic purposes are secondary. The crucial thing is to study not the great books, but simply great books. The idea is to find yourself a few of Kafka's axes. Anything that has the necessary edge and heft will do. Doesn't matter who created it, as long as it can do some damage, as long as it inflicts that wound. The canon is irrelevant in this respect. A real reader creates her own canon, for it consists precisely of those books that she has used to create herself. I'm also not suggesting that every kid has to be an English major, though it's not the worst idea, or even a humanities major. You just, just to give yourself as many chances as possible in college to have those kinds of experiences. You do need to specialize, now more than ever.